Hi everyone, welcome to our latest Acuity Risk Management webinar about third-party risk management. My name is Morgan, I'm a marketing assistant here at Acuity, and today I have with me Jack Pittman, our sales development executive, and Daniel Goodwin, our account manager. So I'm going to hand it over to them in a moment. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you have any technical issues, feel free to just pop them in the chat, and any questions, pop them in the chat and we will address them at the end of our webinar. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
Cool, thank you very much, Morgan. So just a quick overview of what we're planning to cover and sort of the route we're going to take. Jack will give a little introduction to Acuity, who we are, what we're here to speak about today in a presentation at the start. And then after that, we'll go through a stream demonstration. We'll cover it a little bit more in the agenda, but the general topic today is a third-party risk management system. So it's always good to say this pretty much throughout the whole presentation. You'll hear it a lot. If there's any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or alternatively, you can email any of us here directly and we'll be happy to get back to you. So Jack, I'm going to get the presentation because we're going to be doing it from my screen. Let's just get this set up. Cool, make sure we have this too. Wonderful. Okay, can we see the screen?
Yep, that's all good here. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Cool.
So welcome everybody to another instalment in Stream in Action. Today we're focusing on TPRM, or third-party risk management. So obviously Morgan's just presented herself, but we're joined today by myself, Jack Pittman. I am a sales development executive, and talking you through the product today is Daniel Goodwin, an account executive. So just a brief overview on what we'll cover. So obviously we've just gone through our introductions, introduced all our beautiful faces to you, so we've done that. We'll go into a bit more detail about Acuity itself, who we are, what we do, what the product can do for you. And then we'll look into the demonstration itself and tell you a bit more what we're going to cover within the stream. Then we'll get on to the main event, and Daniel will show you stream and TPRM. And then at the end, there'll then be a chance for any questions that you may have. We'll try to answer them to the best of our knowledge. Okay, so a quick overview of Acuity then. So we've been going for nearly 20 years now, based in London, and we recently became acquired and became a PLC as part of the Acuity Risk Management Group. And our solution is an integrated risk management product that is meant to be tailored towards what you need specifically for your business and your risk management, which can be deployed as a software as a service, SaaS, or it can be deployed on-premise. And this is something that we've been delivering across the globe to different industries, different use cases, lots of different sort of situations, and also comes in a blended channel delivery. So we partner with other businesses as well to help widen that outreach. So really the solution itself can be broken down to 4 different sort of key features. So the aims are to centralize, so bring together and correlate all the data that you have on your risk and bring it all into one place, so you can understand your risk and then also be related towards your business as well. So instead of just having random facts and figures on the spreadsheet, you can bring it into Stream and you can see it and see what it actually meant, why it matters to you. On top of that, the Stream aims to quantify. So we want to be able to show you the potential financial loss and the exposure and show it to you in numbers. That way you can see it, as a business, you can see what that risk actually means to you, as opposed to just an event. You can see what it actually will cost in numbers. And with that in mind, we support Monte Carlo simulations. So another key thing is to automate. So again, take it away from the spreadsheets and having a system where your risk status and workflows are updated automatically, so that you get a full and up-to-date picture of where your risk stands, what you need to do, and what what the situation is, what risks are there, what the likelihoods are. And on top of all that is also the ability to report. So we have configurable reporting and user-specific dashboards, totally customizable. So you can take all this information, and instead of it sitting there all pretty, you can then display it how you want. You can show who you want, and you can show it in the way you want to. So you can keep that level of individuality, but you have that data very clear and very presentable. So onto the demonstration itself. So Daniel will shortly introduce you to the Stream platform. He will then show you through the dashboards that I just mentioned. We'll then go into third-party risk management in Stream and show you Stream more within that use case. We'll look at different views of risk, and then we'll look at reporting, again, how you can show that information, and then we'll summarize for you. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to Daniel. Thank you.
Cheers for that, Jack. Appreciate the introduction there. So the plan will be today then to run through the Stream platform. Just checking, Jack, on our side, we can see this, can't we? Should be able to see this.
I can see it.
Okay, wonderful. So what we usually do for these webinars is we like to keep things nice and simple and high level. There will, of course, always be questions that will require us going a little bit more in depth. For those specific questions, we can give you high-level responses here, or alternatively, we can arrange a discussion afterwards. So please don't hesitate to ask questions where you feel necessary. So this is Stream. This is one of the demo platforms we tend to use. This is the platform we've also used mostly for these webinars. So there's lots of data in here. There's loads of different use cases and lots of different scenarios. So what I'm going to try to do is just orientate everybody watching with the platform, as if many of you probably haven't seen it before. So we'll start really basic. So along the left-hand side, all our different tabs, our widgets where we can navigate the platform. Currently, I'm sat on one of our home screens, on one of the dashboards you might see as you log in. But using this, we can navigate to system settings, which if I was an admin, perhaps I would only be able to see this, where we can go into more of the nitty-gritty of the system, settings, backups, restorations, that sort of thing. We also have access to user management. So really nice thing about the platform is that we can segment different parts of data, different parts of registers and assessments to individuals or groups. So if you're dealing with lots of people on one system, we can only restrict the system to show what they need to see, as opposed to having a huge amount overwhelming people at once. We've got further settings, which I won't go into. Frameworks, this just refers more to our libraries, our data repositories, and where we keep our mappings as well. So mappings could be various risks to controls, or threats to controls even, controls to controls, or controls to threats. So lots of different things we can do there as well. Scope, this refers to the scope of the system, what's included. We tend to use a methodology called an enterprise tree structure. It's essentially a business hierarchy. You will see a little bit of that later, so bear with me on that. But essentially, this is how we can build the foundations of the platform. Assets is where we keep assets. Just as good practice, we do like to sort of reiterate that for us, an asset is anything that you can assign a risk to. So that could be a person, it could be a piece of software, it could be a physical thing, it could be data, something like that. So lots of different definitions of an asset. We've also got risks. We essentially define risks as, well, various different ways actually, but in this particular platform, we will reference a risk as something that can be attached to an asset and cause something else to happen, usually quite negative. So that might be the culmination of threats, it might be the culmination of vulnerabilities, all being pumped down into one overarching risk. Controls as well, this is where we keep all of our solutions to problems, all of our actions, etc., etc. So we keep lots of different control libraries in the system. For vendor, they tend to be controls such as checking if a vendor is using, what's a good example, security cameras on their premises, or if a vendor has a certain certification, that's a control. But of course, those controls can be much more complicated, and of course more simple than that too. Entities is where anything else is stored. Now, because this is our demo platform, we have lots of different examples. I won't be touching it today. Happy to take questions on it though. We can also keep things like incident management in here, InfoSec, audit management, privacy, business continuity, and a whole lot more as well. We've also got actions. So actions can be generated by the user. They can be generated through workflows. This is where the management system of the platform really starts to come alive. Having an action perhaps generated if someone hasn't been assigned to something, keep your data quality high. Perhaps maybe there is a response to a poorly deployed control with an action. Again, these are ways that we can notify the user and also notify perhaps maybe the wider system that things aren't going right or a process needs to be followed. We've also got reports, so we can generate things on the go, heat maps, nice bar graphs, exceedance summaries, that sort of thing. We can make those on the fly with the system as well. Finally, a little help tab for any other questions I might have as a user. So that's the menus gone through, just a couple of other little side bits. At the bottom, we do have a messaging system. This is something that we can integrate notifications into, perhaps through emails, that's quite common, or purely through the system. We've also got up here a nice little button, that's an export button. You'll see that across the system, particularly in these dashboards and in reports. Anything you see, we can take that out, put it on a slideshow, put it in a presentation, however you want, really easy. Two other things then to mention before we get into the widgets. We have the name of our dashboard up here, and we also have the ability to navigate to other dashboards, but primarily we're going to stick to third-party vendor management here. So what are we looking at in front of us? This is a classical example really of a vendor overview. What's going on? What do I have to do? Are things going well? Are things going really slow, etc., etc.? So this dashboard has been built really to encompass all of that. On the top left, our first widget, we have a quick overview of a step-by-step process of a form being sent out. So these are onboarding forms. You might just put on your system. You might be partnering with someone. You might be doing some sort of work, etc. Lots of different use cases for this form. Has it been sent out? We can see that through here. Have they just been put in the system? Are they a new vendor? We can see that here as well. So the chronological order is we have our new vendor. That new vendor has now been sent the form. They've completed the form. It's been approved, or perhaps maybe it's just sat in a grey area. It hasn't been sent yet. We can change this as much as we want to be perhaps a pie chart or numbers, but personally, I think we can all agree a bar chart looks really nice here. We've also got a compliance overview, again, really high level, but quite useful to have and to look at a glance. We can see in the same sort of way who is unassessed, who has no compliance, that's not great, partial compliance, full compliance, they're still doing our assessment or that hasn't been set yet. And as you can probably imagine, if I was to click on one of these, let's perhaps maybe click on the assessment in progress, this takes me to vendor 8, which obviously haven't finished their assessment, so I can perform actions based off that there. Let's just go back with the button up here and we'll go through the rest of the dashboard. We have a really typical integration that we might build into the system. This one's with Security Scorecard, just an example really of how we can use our open API, or perhaps even like a Zapier integration for sort of more quick solutions to make a real good functionality within the system. This of course can be linked with everything, it can be reported on just in the same way as any other data might be in stream. We have a vendor's control summary that's empty at the moment. We also have an action schedule, so I can limit these just to me, or I can limit these to the actions across the system. I'm not going to do that, it's a bit ridiculous, but here's an overview. Perhaps maybe we want to change this to numbers. We can add new vendors directly from this screen as well. So I could do pretty much 50%, maybe 60% of the vendor risk management use case on stream in this one dashboard. We can keep bookmarks here too, and here's that messaging system I popped up earlier, where I can just look up any of my unread messages as they come up. So that's the dashboard for stream. Good rule of thumb is if it's present in the platform, we can turn it into a graph, we can turn it into a widget, and we can put it in these dashboards. Anybody can make these. They can be made by the user, by perhaps maybe a manager, or by us upon typical implementations, and they can be customized at any point. So there's no hard work behind this really. It really is just drag and drop squares. Definitely simplifying it, but it's good example, I think. Anyways, we're going to go through a little bit of a life cycle now with vendor risk management. We're going to start with a unassessed vendor, or perhaps a vendor that hasn't filled in the assessment properly. We're going to fill that out from the perspective of the vendor. So we're going to send it out, fill it out, and it will come back in. And we will see how that data changes. So the way Stream works is primarily as a management tool. What this allows and really empowers the users to do is it allows them to send out forms, send out assessments on rotation. Even it can be hands-off as well. So very much part of an automation every 6 months, every 12 months. So we can get through this whole process without really doing as much as I might have to if I was doing this manually. It's a very diplomatic way to word it. So let's have a look at a vendor then. So we have our vendor here, fortunately called vendor, and this is sat within a typical screen within the platform. So just to run through the screen, on the left side we have our enterprise tree structure, our business hierarchy, and we can see where various parts of the system are sat. Because I'm an admin, because I'm in a super user, I can see everything, but if you were perhaps maybe segmenting users by permissions, you might only see 1 or 2 of these. On the right are our classes. So if we were to add a vendor right now to the ABC Corporation, which is our fake company, with the vendor questionnaire, asset class, it would automatically be assigned a set category of things. In this case, there'll be questions. So let's go into our vendor here, vendor 1, and we get a little bit of detail in what's already in here. So quick overview then. The left side is essentially a quick overview of the vendor form, who owns it, what status is it, etc. So I can see here when it was created, when it was last updated, a reference which is automatically generated to keep data quality high, the name, descriptions, who it's assigned to, the owner, etc., etc. Right? Good thing to note about these particular forms is that we can add whatever you want in here. These are all just configurable fields that we can record any forms of metadata as requirements may change. Really nice thing to note as well, and you will see this a lot within the system, is this little button. It's our audit history. We click this and we can see what somebody has done with this particular item in Stream across its lifetime. On the right side is our data view. We also have a graph view here, which is more of a visual way. Great to export and put in presentations, but for what we're going to be doing, we're going to be in the data view. Here we can link assets, link this to registers, maybe add risks or controls directly. Again, we have integrations built into this, as well as further actions. Perhaps maybe we can add entities, such as like an incident. We have lots of examples of these. I won't get into them. Any documentation that's been added either by me or by perhaps maybe a recipient of the form. Any messages attached, controls that have been shared with external users, as well as general forms, and of course workflows as well. So what can we do with this then? So we have our vendor. This can be company one, maybe the company that you work with to, I don't know, look after your servers. Could be something like that. Let's send them a form to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing from a compliance standpoint. So all we need to do, and we can do this automatically, but I'm going to do it manually, is write that name. So we'll send it to Daniel G. That is me. We'll put in their email here. Now, it will send me an email directly. I'm not going to open it. I'll do it from the system. But this was a user sending it to someone else. They would get an email in their inbox straight away. I can choose a form to send. So this is one of what we'd call a stream form or a web form. We can send this out, and they can do this as many times as they want. Only once. We'll just stick with once. And we can customize the notification we share as well. So let's send this out. Yep, send it to me. And it's already sent it out to me here. Now we're not going to wait for it to show up in my inbox. Let's just copy that form directly, like so. And it's brought me to an example vendor risk assessment form. So this is nice and basic. It's a good way to just show what we can do. What this form is asking me to do is, are you certified in 27001? Can you ensure all data services are encrypted? Real basic stuff, but we're just going to put some dummy answers in. We're not going to think about them too much. We'll put an NA here just to see how that looks. We'll put a couple more yeses and a no. And I might want to add some comments in here as well as I go. Good thing to note, I mentioned this earlier, if you require documentation, perhaps maybe like a certificate or something like that, we can attach that to this here as well. We can make this mandatory and have this be submitted straight into the system as well. But we're going to submit that form, which has told me off for some reason, but that's fine. And what the form would usually do is it would go into one of these controls and it would change it for us. These controls just being a yes or no question. I can show you a nice example of one of those over here. Let's have a look. Full compliance, that will work for us. Vendor one assessment. Okay, so here's an example of one I did earlier where we've had a few yeses, a few nos, and it just would change perhaps maybe an overall control deployment to be 40%. And what this would do on our side is perhaps maybe this would show up on a report, it would show up on an automation or a workflow to say that this particular vendor is either compliant, not compliant, needs work, has an action to it, etc. So we can do lots of different things with that as well. Okay, cool. Right, I'm just gonna have a quick sip of water. I think we've only got 5 minutes left. Did want to cover one other little thing if I've got enough time, but I'll try and be quick. And this is more so towards sending forms out to perhaps maybe risk use cases or control use cases. And that's something we can absolutely do as well. We'll quickly show an example of one. Let's get one of these out. So again, same methodology here. All we're doing is we're finding perhaps maybe a risk or a control that we want to assess. Let's just pick one out from one of the dashboards. We'll go to the cyber attack risk listed here. And all we would do, again, the same sort of thing, is we would do a name, do an email address, choose a form to send. Let's send out that demo form. Hopefully this works and we can show this properly. Again, would send an inbox to me, or send something to my inbox. Similar sort of scenario here. We can change the impact and likelihood. Let's perhaps maybe change that to low and that one to very high. What this is essentially going to do on our system side, or what it should do, is it will change our initial risk and our residual risk to match this particular web form. So these forms have use cases really across lots of different scenarios here, and this is just quite a common one as well. There we go. So this one is working properly here. So this one should change the initial risk and residual risk once it loads. There we go, and we can see how that changes over time as well. So the real key use case here is keeping these web forms hands off for the user. That they might have to send out 60, 70, 80 of these, perhaps maybe a month if they're lucky. A great thing that we haven't also shown here is the way we can loop these as well. So once somebody's been put into the system once, they can be sent the same thing every 6 months, every 12 months, etc., etc. So really good way of saving time on resources for the individual and also the business. So it's quite useful for that as well. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. I hope that was informative for everybody. I'm going to pass back over now to Jack and Morgan, like that. Okay. So hopefully that was okay for you guys. Hopefully I covered everything. Sorry if I took too much time out of questions, like usual.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Detailed and on the money as always. So don't worry, we have got a couple of questions. Morgan, if you wanted to run through them for us, please.
Okay, so the first question is, what else can a web form be used for?
Okay, so I'm going to assume that person sent that question just before I did that last bit, but that's no worries. So a web form essentially is there to capture information. So the use case really can be quite creative. You can use them for all sorts. I would say that a web form is a great cost saving and time saving mostly way to get around things internally as well as externally. So we've seen a third-party use case. We just saw a risk assessment use case, but what about controls? What about department risk? What about perhaps maybe sending out security assessment forms to people on the first line? You can use them for lots. You don't need an account. You don't need to, buy millions and millions of licenses like other software. You just log into the form, fill it out, and it gets kicked back into the system. So lots of different use cases.
Okay. The next question is, how quickly can we onboard a vendor in the system?
So a lot of that will depend on the vendor, but in a promising world where they answer your email straight away, essentially you would give a couple of basic information to that vendor. You'd put them in the right class. We only had one, which was just our vendor assessment class, but you might have lots. That form would get pushed out. The second that form's been returned back into the system and you've accepted it, that's it. You've done your vendor compliance on that particular thing. One of the big problems which we hear quite a lot is, one or two people having to do 100 of these every month, every 2 months, and they're doing it through Word and through emails, and it's an absolute nightmare. So having this system here like this is a great way to get around that headache of having to do the same thing over and over again, following up with people over and over again. We can automate much of that with the system.
Okay, great. I think those were all the questions. So I just would like to say thank you for everyone attending the webinar today, and we hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to get in touch with us, and yeah, if you want any more information about Stream, you can head over to our website, or you can message either Jack or Daniel, and they can go into further detail with you. So.
I'll put the details up on the screen in case anyone wants to jot those down. But as Morgan said, we're happy to take any questions or answer any hypothetical scenarios with the platform. Jack is probably going to be the main man for a lot of those, but I'm sure I can help out if there's too much for him as well.
So basically, I'll pass them all back to you, Daniel.
Yeah, that's how it usually goes.
No, in all seriousness, though, anyone got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. If I don't know the answer, I definitely will know the person who does have the answer. So we can definitely work on that together.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you guys, as always, for coming on these webinars with me. Everyone watching, thank you very much for your time. And we'll see you all is it next month, Morgan? Do you know when the next webinar is?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't know at the top of my head, but there will be an email. I think it may be this month, the end of this month, there'll be another webinar. Either the end of or the beginning of next month. I don't think we've confirmed a date, but just look out for the emails and yeah, register for the next one.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to end the session here. If you need the recording, let us know. But other than that, thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.